traveling through Asia is just like such a vibe. Like I feel like everybody at some point in their lives should just do a trip throughout Asia because like all of the different countries and the cultures and like even the landscape of like northern Thailand to southern Thailand to Bali, it's just like such a different vibe, but they're all so beautiful and like complementary. And just seeing you girls just out there having a blast is just like honestly like I'm all for it. Like I'm just like yes, go swim with the sea turtles and get splashed by the elephants. But yeah, I mean, just kind of get us started. Like, how is life in Bali? Like, how are things? Like, what's it like
Oh,
there?
it is amazing. We're actually in the Gili Islands right now, so still Indonesia, but just outside of Bali. And yeah, no, I can't stop talking about it. We did a month in Thailand, went to like Bangkok, up north to Chiang Mai and Pai, and then went down south to Phuket and did the islands and everything. Absolutely amazing. Cannot stop talking about it. It that month in Thailand, I loved it. It was so great. So many stories, so many friends. The food was amazing. The everything was gorgeous. Then we came to Bali, and Bali, it's very overhyped. I like it. I really like it, but it is incredibly overhyped, and I was expecting it to be overhyped. I did some research on it. I knew it was gonna be full of trash everywhere. It would like literally anywhere you walk down the road, there's trash on the side of the road. And
Is it because like they lack like the garbage bins? Because I remember in Thailand, like that was an issue of just like public
yeah, no,
waste places and stuff like that.
they don't have a lot of public garbage bins or anything. They also have a lot of like rivers going out, so people just throw shit into the rivers. And it actually happened that we arrived to Canggu. So we were in Ubud for a few days and then went to Canggu. And we arrived when like it had just been a huge rain, like it had rained for a few days. And we went to the beach. The beach was so disgusting. The water was brown. You couldn't see through it. There was garbage piled up on the beach everywhere. And we literally walked onto the beach, and it's a dark sand beach. So, I mean, it's first of all, we're used to the white sand beaches. And so the dark sand beach, it's gorgeous, but when you're not used to it, it's brown water and there's garbage on the beach. It's a bit shocking. And we were like, we're supposed to be surfing tomorrow. Like, what's going on here? So we didn't surf the next day, but we did surf the day after that, and most of the garbage had been cleaned up. The water was still brown, but we were like, you know what? People are out there surfing. Obviously, you can surf in the brown water. And like the next day, we went surfing again. Cleared up. The water was less brown, starting to get blue again. And then 2 days later, my friends went surfing again, and they said the water was perfect, almost crystal clear, nice and blue. So it's just from the all the water coming out of the river, and people just throwing all their trash like everywhere. It goes into the river goes out. It was gross, but it did end up being not gross.
I can only imagine. That's good. At least nature and hopefully people kind of, took some responsibility there and, try to clean that up. It's so interesting. I feel like, yeah, being island babies and like you travel to other parts of the world that are especially like tourist
Hmm.
destinations and like you see like the narrative that social media paints, but then when you see it for what it is, like you're kind of just like, wow, like this is not what you expect. And when we like, because we put tourism so high, like you really do expect like these services to be um at a certain caliber, at least. And
Yeah,
I know like your family has definitely been in like the marine tourism industry for pretty much for like my whole life. I don't know, like it seems like forever. And I definitely feel like you get accustomed to seeing like the environment protected and shown in a certain way, and when it's like neglected it hurts. Like it's kind of just like, oh, humans,
yeah,
what are
it
you
was so
doing? Like,
shocking. It was like we just walked out there and we're like, this isn't what the pictures are like. You know, like, obviously, we did our research. We knew it wasn't gonna be perfect, and we all had done our own research, had, like, our own expectations and everything. And I was just like, I I saw all these pictures, and I knew it could get bad, but I didn't see pictures of the bad, so I didn't know what to expect for the bad. And in my mind, you know, there are parts of St. Martin that have trash everywhere. There are some of the rivers in St. Martin that are, well, rivers, streams, whatever, like canals, whatever you want to call them.
The ponds, I feel
Yeah.
you. Bodies of water.
Whatever you want to call them in St. Martin. Some of them are man-made, some are natural. Um, like you see some that, you know, they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You know, the salt pond that makes, you know, it's dirty, but not horrible. And then you see some that's with the dead fish and everything. So I knew it from that side, but still seeing it out in the ocean, I had never really seen it that much. Like, not with trash and everything. Like, I've gone and seen oceans where they look brown. You know, when going around Thailand, we went through on the ferry some brown oceans, things like that. But it was just a surprise. And I was just like, I was just confused, wondering if this was how it always was. Because obviously, when you do look at pictures of people in Canggu and, well, Bali in general, what you don't realize is like it's this picturesque, you know, tropical, everyone's in bathing suits, this and that. But 90% of the pictures are at pools. And that just never clocked in my head. Like, in my mind, I was like, pools. They're by the, like, you know, but there's still the beach. Like, it's famous for the surfing and the beach. And
Yeah.
so that was just something that I just didn't clock and didn't really think about.
Interesting. Yeah, I never even considered that either. That people were purposefully at the pools because they were like,
Yeah.
sis, I am not going in that ocean.
Well, the ocean did clear up, and like by the end of the trip in Canggu, the ocean was looking a lot nicer than our first walk down to the beach. We were all so excited, you know. We were in a mood. We were like, yeah, it's been raining. It's been raining. We're gonna go to the beach, put our feet in the salt water and the sand, and we just stepped on the beach, and I think all of our jaws dropped because we just weren't
We're just like,
expecting
not
it.
today.
Yeah.
Like today's not the day. Well, we'll come back, you know. We'll
Exactly. I was like, yeah.
But I'm curious, like spending a month in Thailand. Like, I know one of the things that I loved about being on that side of the world is how cheap everything is, and you can really do so much and really get to experience like these countries and these different communities for the cheap. How did you guys sort of like, yeah, like figure out just being able to stay there for so long without it like breaking the bank or you know being able to really yeah try out local life and experience all those festivals and stuff that you guys you know did while
I
you were
mean,
there?
the four of us all had different, like, but we all have different budgets, and we all had different, like, ways of saving up beforehand. For me personally, after university, I moved home into my childhood home with my parents. I worked for 2 years, and I was very fortunate that when I stayed with my parents, I did pay rent, but it was very minimal, and it was an agreement.
They were like, we need that money, Alice. Like we you're not coming home for free. Like
Well, it was kind of their way of just being like, we will always support you,
yeah.
but like you're an adult. You know, what I paid at home,
Yeah, give you the level of responsibility. Like, you know,
my rent was
regular
nothing.
20-year-olds gotta pay rent.
My rent was so
But
low,
it's
it
just
was almost nothing.
the act of paying rent, you
Exactly, yeah.
know, just to
Yeah, no,
accountability.
it was literally just like that. Like they had the agreement with my sister when she moved home after uni and started working. They were like, "Okay, this is how much you're going to pay for rent." And then when I moved home, they were like, "Okay, well, your salaries are a little bit different. So the way to make this fair is just take the percentage that your sister was making." And so that was kind of the thing. So as my salary changed a little bit over the 2 years as I moved positions at work, they were like, just continue to pay this percentage, which was so minimal. So I'm incredibly thankful. I was able to save money to get my car, and then I sold my car. So I made, you know, was able to keep that money pretty
I
much.
feel you.
It ended up working out really well. Obviously, tough, you know, being at university, living on your own, being independent, and then moving home into your childhood bedroom. That was very tough. But we worked it
I
out.
get what did you go away to study while you were in, like, the UK,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no, I studied in Cambridge, and I studied animal behavior.
Super cool. What kinda got you interested in animal behavior? Because like, I know your family is, like, super into nature, and I've always been so grateful for the experiences that I've had just with their, like, fascination and love and just, like, being such activists for the climate, and I'm curious, like, did that influence your passion for
Oh,
animals?
for
And because I
sure.
know your grandma, like, has chickens and geese and all sorts of things, running around the yard, and I always enjoyed playing with them. So yeah, I'm sure like that, must have given you a taste for taking care of animals and just being a champion for nature.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, it was really nice. As you said, my parents have always, been activists pretty much. They've always been environmental, always done what they could to help the environment. My entire family's been like that. And yeah, it's definitely did give me a little bit of a broader insight to it before going off to university because I was also able to see it from the ecotourism point of view. So not only I had this love for animals and I was like I want to work with them, I want to do something with them. When I was a kid, I was very certain I was going to be a vet. I was like no, no, no. Vet, vet, vet until I was about 15. And then I was like, wait, if I be a vet, I have to finish high school, do my 3 or 4 years of my undergrad, and then another 3 or 4 years of like a post grad, and then also a doctorate or something. I was like, aha, that's a lot of school. I was tired of school, and I wasn't that great at it. Like I was decent, but we weren't enjoying it. And the idea of doing at minimum of 7 years after high school, I couldn't do it.
Who's got the
I was just
time?
like,
Who's got the time?
oh, I don't think I would have been able to last 7 years. Would have had to drop out or take a gap year, which, if you do that, that's great. But I was like, I wanted to get my schooling done. I wanted the higher education, but I didn't want to go that far. And I was just like, that's for me, for my personal growth. I was like, for now, I want to do the 3 years because in England, you just do 3 years university, not four. And so I did the 3 years. After like a year and a half, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. But I was like, I'm halfway through. I'm not a quitter. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Like, we gotta finish where we
Exactly,
started.
exactly. I was just like, what is this even gonna do for me? I was like, this career line doesn't have any money in the future. Like, what am I
It's just a
doing?
paper.
Exactly.
Expensive pieces of paper.
Exactly. And I mean, I was so lucky that I had my family support through it as well, and they were like, no, 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 you're going to keep going. If you have to stop, we will help you stop, but try to keep going. So I did, and I finished in COVID, which sucked. But yeah, no, I mean, especially going out through the 3 years, learning more about different animals, I just had more questions that I wanted answered. So I just kept going, learning more. And my parents were very supportive because, as you were saying, they are also like, they helped me obtain this affinity for animals and nature and everything because they love it as well. And it does sometimes annoy me because my father has a lot of questions that he expects me to answer, like all the time.
He's like, "Alice, I paid for this education. I need to know.
Exactly.
Like, I'm sending you to receive so you could teach him." Is really what it
That is
was, you know?
100% it. When I was working at the foundation studying the monkeys, my dad was like, oh, so what about this with the monkeys? What about this and this and this? And I was like, Dad, 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 I've just done 8 hours at work. I was like, I'm tired. I'm not at work. I will talk about work when I am at work. I do not ask you about your work
Like,
outside
call
of
the
work.
office, like, call
Exactly.
the office. We'll deal with it there.
Exactly. I was like, I'm answering phones in the office half the time anyway. Like, if you call the office, I'll answer and I can answer your questions, but not right now. Especially, he and I would sometimes carpool in the mornings because we would start at the same time. It was ridiculous. Four of us in the same house, each with our own cars, going to the same place, like all Simpson Bay, Coal Bay, every day. The only thing is we all finished work at different times. Like, my dad and I both started at 8. So, we would go in at 8, but I had, like, an 8 to 4 contract job. I wasn't high up in the company, in the foundation or anything like my dad is. So, my dad has to stay until nighttime to finish all his work. But I was like, 4 o'clock, I'm done. I was like, that's all my contract says. Like, if I have to stay late, I will, but if I don't have to, going home, getting some
Going
rest.
home, exactly, going home.
It was really hard to carpool as much as we wanted to, but during summer it worked because, there was always someone going back. So I would drive in with my dad and just leave my car at his office overnight. So then I would have my car during the day. And then in the evening, if it would like worked out, maybe I had to wait an extra hour for my sister, my mom, my dad, someone. But I was just like, we're all going the
I
same
feel you,
way.
I feel you.
It's like, I can sit here for an hour on my
Might as
phone. I'm gonna
well.
sit at home for an hour on my phone. Save the
I feel
gas.
it, I
It's
feel
like,
it.
it works for me, save the
Exactly.
money, but also save the environment. So it's like a win-win for everyone.
Sh Exactly,
But it
exactly.
was always in the mornings. He would always ask me the
I
questions. I was
feel it.
like,
Morning is
leave me alone.
it's too early for this. It's too
Yeah,
early. Okay, I have just woken up. But like I guess like what do you study in animal behavior? Like are you just like are you observing animals in their natural habitats and trying to like deduce patterns of like how they interact with other animals and stuff like
that
that?
is a huge part of it. Yeah, it's also, I mean, there are different ways that you can work with the degree. How I've been using it the last 2 years for work was I just studied the monkeys on St. Maarten, kind of got a rough idea of how many there are, the characteristics, etc., etc. And then I just did a marine litter project. So that didn't actually have to do with my degree. It just worked with, because the fact that, I knew how to write these reports and everything, the scientific aspect, and knew the environmental ways. But you can also use the degree, and how you were saying is you can study the animal, make sure that their patterns, their behaviors work with how they should be in the wild. So, how I really want to use my degree next is I really want to work in a rehab and conservation center. And it's basically just making sure that this animal that can't live out in the wild at the moment for whatever reason is happy, healthy, and is basically being true. Like, it's being how it should be in captivity.
You're trying to give animals their best life
Exactly.
is really what you're trying to do, which is
That
awesome.
is
Like we
it.
all
Yeah.
should be striving, creating the best lives for ourselves and for the animals. Like we should all be enjoying this planet. Like that's super cool. Super cool. I guess like how was it living in London or like just living in England, and was that like your first time really leaving the island for like that long
Yeah.
of time?
Yeah, no, I mean, we traveled a bit growing up, but the longest I had been away from home at a time was, I think, 5, 6 weeks maximum. And then boom, 18 years old, straight out the door for university. It was a shock, especially in St. Martin, where we're so dependent because you can't get your driver's license until you're 18. You, like, everything I would do, I was so dependent on my parents because I worked for my parents to get money, because it was harder to work down the road because, I couldn't really drive there. I had no freedom of movement, no independence, and both my parents worked like full time. They're both business owners. So they would work, from morning until night. There were so many times where after school, my sister and I would go to my mom's shop and we would hang
The
out
scuba
there. The
shop
scuba
for the
shop,
people
yeah.
that don't know.
The scuba shop. And we would go and hang out there. And eventually I'd end up like, I would help out in the shop every now and then, make a little extra cash if she needed the help. Sometimes, create jobs just so I could get some cash. I'll be like, oh,
Like,
like,
"Hey, work needs to be
exactly. I
done.
was like,
I'll take the
this needs to
money."
get straightened up. I'll work for like an hour or two. What's the rate going right now? Then I would walk to my dance lessons because that was, you know, a 20-minute walk. My mom was like, nope. As soon as I was like 13, she's like, you can walk that. I'm not driving you anymore. There's too much traffic. So I'd always walk. I had,
She said,
yeah.
"No, you could walk. Well, it's close. You it's close.
I mean, it was hot,
It's
but
feasible. It is hot. It is feasible." I see what she was thinking,
yeah.
you know? I
And she
see. I
rightfully
see.
so, very rightfully so, had rules on what I was allowed to walk down the road in. Because of course, you know, with
She's not
dance,
trying to have you
exactly.
catcalled,
I
you
mean, it
know?
still happened.
Exactly.
Still happened. Remember, I once walked down the road in sweats, like full on sweatpants, sweatshirt, sweating just sweating so much. But I was like, this is all I
She's trying to
have.
not get
This is all I
attention.
have, other than like little booty shorts to dance in and a sports bra. So I was like, I have to wear this. And I would still get catcalled. It was ridiculous.
It's because 'cause you're cute, you know? That's what it is. We're cute.
Thank you.
They
But they
can't
can't
help.
see
They
that from the
can't
back.
resist.
With my hair up, my hood up,
Hey,
like you can't even tell I'm a
they
girl.
know. They were like, "She fine." That's why she hiding so well. They're like, "What you hiding under all them sweats? We know it's hot."
But yeah, so having that dependence for obviously 18 years and suddenly going into university, it was a shock. I had a big culture shock first of all. It was just a shock suddenly being able to buy what I want, be in charge of my own money. You know, I one thing.
Making it rain in them dorm rooms.
Oh no, I was so scared of spending money. I was so frugal with my money. I would like go to the shop, make sure I was getting all the best deals. I didn't want to run out of money. I didn't want to ask my parents for more money. I couldn't get a student loan. I was still new. I didn't have a bank account for my first few weeks. So my mom literally pulled out a bunch of cash for me to last me a few weeks because I couldn't get a bank account until we got there, and then the bank account took a few weeks to get sorted. So it was
I
this
feel it. I
whole
feel
thing.
it.
I had 1 week with my mom post Irma. So my dad had flown home for Irma because we were away when it hit. And so we're in England, worried the hell. I thought my cat had died. He didn't. He somehow showed up 3 weeks after Irma completely unscathed. Like
It
he
was like Survivor.
exactly. We had someone watching the house, and my cat didn't like still doesn't like people. And this guy who he works with my father, we've known him for years. He always stays at our house when we go away. He was just like, yeah, no, I haven't seen him. I haven't seen your cat. I haven't seen him. You know, I left food for him, but I haven't seen him. My dad goes home, sorry, Alice, he's not here. You know, he's gone, dead. Have your little memorial. My dad hates my cat, so he's like, you know, there you go.
He was
Three
like, "Get
weeks.
over it. She's gone now, or he's
Exactly.
gone now."
Exactly. 3 weeks later, I get a photo from my dad and a text. He's fucking back. And it was my cat just showed up and started eating some food.
He was like, "I'm hungry. I've been fasting for God knows how long,
Exactly.
surviving off of the mice." Like,
Oh, my cat was fat. He had that extra fat to keep him going.
he was like, "I got stuff to burn. This is the event I needed to get into shape. Is really your cat orchestrated Irma just to lose weight. I totally understand. You
Yeah,
know, I feel for him. I
there you
feel for him.
go. But yes, I mean, moving in, I had a week with my mom and my sister in Cambridge, where they helped me move in, buy all my stuff, because of course I went there with 2 bags. You know, no proper warm clothes, no kitchen, no bedroom,
Because
nothing.
where are you gonna buy that on St. Martin?
Exactly.
You not.
Also,
It's
why would I fly with
impossible.
it?
Exactly.
So yeah, so I
A
had
lot
to
of
buy it
extra
all.
baggage. Exactly.
And so yeah, so we're going through that, setting up a bank account, getting me like properly enrolled into university because they're all the last minute things, making sure my tuition loan had come through, all of these things. And this whole time we were still like, oh, is our house okay? Is the family okay? Like we've only heard a little bit here and there. And then my mom and sister left, and I still have a picture on my phone with my mom. I took a selfie right before she got on the train, and my face was just bright red with tears streaming down my face, and my mom had tears in her eyes, and she was just smiling because she was trying to be strong and she was excited for me. And I was just like, no, no, no. I changed my mind. I'm not ready. I was like, I'm not ready to be alone. No, no, no.
You're like, you cannot leave me, not in this other man country. I
I was
cannot.
like,
I don't know these people.
I don't work here. I don't fit in. I don't know people. I don't know anyone. I was like, I don't have any friends. I grew up with the same people around me. Like, I had the same people in my class from kindergarten until graduation.
Squad.
I was
Talking about a squad. I feel
so
you.
I was like, what do you expect from me now? I had to relearn how to meet people. I didn't know that. I didn't know how to make friends. Like, I would maybe make one new
And
friend a
nevertheless,
year.
introduce yourself and explain the whole
Oh
complicated
my goodness.
backstory of who we are as Caribbean people. It's too much.
I know.
It's too much.
And then my first day of university, so we had like our lectures, and then we had a private tutor, which wasn't actually private. It was basically just one of the professors had a smaller group, and that was like you would turn some assignments in with him. If you had any questions. It went through the first 3 years, but it was really important in your first year to help students get used to it and everything. And we're obviously doing icebreakers here and there. And he's like, okay, you have to say, what's your name, where you're from, what your favorite animal is. Because we were all animal students. We were animal behavior, zoology, and another course that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. That was kind of like mixed, just different animal courses. Vet tech. So like a nurse. And so we're all there, and it comes up to me, and I'm like, hi, and I'm like, very nervous. This a room full of people I don't know. I'm introducing myself to, and I'm like, I'm Alice. I'm from St. Maarten, which is an island in the Caribbean, and my favorite animal is a goat.
I mean, they were in your backyard, Alice. I understand. They don't understand, but I feel you.
I love goats. I refuse to do a lot of research on goats. I refuse to do research on goats because I want them to be a mythical creature to me.
Our local goat population,
But
they'd be right there on Point Blanche Hill,
exactly.
I feel
you. You see them all the time on the side of a cliff. I'm like, there's no way.
Exactly.
Physically, you can be there. This doesn't work with physics, so it's magic.
It's not mathing. It's not.
Exactly.
It's not mathing.
And so, of course, I say that, and nobody knows what I'm talking about. None of the students know anything about anything. And then all of a sudden,
was St. Maarten?
The freaking tutor turns around and he goes, oh, you just had that big hurricane. Are you okay? In front of everyone. And I was just like, yeah, I'm okay. And he goes, do you still have a house? I was like,
now is not the time, bro.
I was like, dude,
now is not the time for this.
I was like, this was 2 weeks ago. I'm still like,
it's fresh. The wounds are fresh. I'm still Let's not make me cry. Okay.
I was like, my mother left me 2 days ago. Thankfully my house was okay, but my cats died because I didn't know he was alive yet. I was like, I'm all alone. I haven't heard from this and that friend yet. I'm still waiting to hear from people. I don't know how my friends' houses have gone. I was like, I don't know what I even own anymore. I was like, I don't know what's in the house. I know the house itself is okay, but I know, certain rooms got different damage.
You don't know, how damaged
exactly.
It really is.
I was like, what do I own?
I feel you.
And
it
was this whole thing, and I was just
I feel you.
Yeah, everything's okay. We just lost a few tiles.
Okay.
And I'm just there holding back tears from just... because I'm a crier. I cry at almost everything. But I was just holding back tears because I was so not even embarrassed, but just out of my comfort zone. And I was like, I don't know how to respond to this. But if I don't respond, then... that's bad. If I start crying, that's even worse. I'm 18. This is university. I have to be a grown-up. I can't cry. I was like, what the hell does this man want me to do? It's like, he wanted me to say, oh yeah, everything's good. So that's all I said, which, everything for us was great. It turned out after Irma. But I was just like, what if I did lose my house? What did you want me to say? I was like, I had a friend who was calling
Yeah.
me,
You
talking
gonna
to me
help
on the phone,
me,
and
you know?
yeah, my friend was like, literally, my father is upstairs while I'm in my downstairs, like room, and the roof is coming off. You know, I was talking to friends like, my roof is coming off, the windows are out, all of these things, and I'm just there like,
Feeling helpless.
exactly.
I feel
And this man
you.
goes to me, oh, how is everything? Do you still have a house? It's like, dude.
Ignorance at its
It's like, dude, not the
finest, you
time.
know.
It's okay. He ended up getting fired for selling drugs to students and sleeping with students, so not a great guy. But we were talking about him to a girl that went to our uni beforehand, because like a friend I made was from the area, so her friend went to the uni, and she goes, oh yeah, no, he's my weed dealer. I was like, oh, okay.
Hey, he making the connects. He probably heard you were from the island Alice and was like, "Ooh, clientele. I need to get in with her. She know she gonna bring me to the new clients that I need." Yeah, yeah, that is wild, but I feel him. He was trying to make money, you know, hustling,
Yeah,
hustling.
it was definitely strange.
Hilarious. But I guess like after you'd been there for a minute, like what was it like living in Cambridge, you know, especially with like such that big university that everybody be like so desperate to get into and just like yeah, like life in England or like
Well,
did you ever adjust to the culture at any point? Were you still like, I don't know, these people are weird. I'm trying to go back home.
it I loved Cambridge. And just to clarify, I didn't go to Cambridge University. I went to another one in Cambridge. So no one's ever even heard of my university, which I'm so happy about.
What's it called? What's it called?
Anglia Ruskin University.
Woo woo!
But I'm so happy I didn't go to Cambridge. They have so many rules. Like, you're not allowed to work if you go to Cambridge. It's in your code of conduct as a student. You can't work if you go to Cambridge. They want
Expect
100%.
you to be broke in the
Oh
streets?
no,
Or
if you can't afford
what?
it, they help you out with housing and food apparently.
Oh, sweet.
But
That's
they're
nice.
like, yeah, they were just like, no, you can't work. So I met so many people that did work, and they were like, yeah, like if my school found out, I'd get kicked out. Like, that's how apparently strict they said they were. I've never heard of anyone
Why
getting kicked out for
though? I
working, but
feel it. That's weird.
yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Oh well.
But
Hmm.
but yeah, no, I loved Cambridge. It was very different, but I loved that it was a city, but it was a small city. So even though we were like, it was very different to what I was used to. I was always meeting new people, and then I got like my group of friends, and that group changed. Obviously, you know, you go through university, have falling outs, meet new people that you work better with, all of these things. So the group I
You gotta
started,
filter, you know, filter through the fake people. And then at the end,
exactly.
you like, okay, there's a couple of y'all I mess with. You can come true. I
Exactly.
feel
I
it.
started like in first year, I had my group of friends, completely different by my last year. Only talked to the group of friends from my
Evolution.
last year, all of these things. But yeah, no, it was great. I loved it so much, and I've been back twice afterwards. I went back last year for graduation. It worked out really well. I was already in Europe for a work trip, and graduation was like 2 weeks after my work trip had ended. So I was able to take vacation and just stay in Europe a little longer. So I was like, free trip to my. I wasn't going to go to graduation, but now all of a sudden my flights are paid for. Like, yeah, I'm doing this.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. Manifest it.
so it was great seeing all my friends and getting my stuff, because for COVID, I had 30 hours to pack up and leave. So thankfully, my flatmates, who were my best friends and still are some of my best friends, they packed up my room for me. And then my cousin drove up, because it's 2 hours from London where my cousin lives, and she drove up with her boyfriend and picked up all my stuff to take it to my aunt's house. And she ended up using like a bunch of my
Aw.
kitchen stuff because she was going to uni the next year. So it worked out perfectly. I was like, I don't need this.
We love it.
Um,
Exactly. Sharing is
So, yeah.
caring.
So once again, second time of my life, I had no idea what I still owned. I had no idea, and this was all within like, 3 years later. No idea what was there. I knew my friends had to throw some things away, like furniture. They obviously, my aunt wasn't going to keep furniture for me. And it was like some books. I was like, yeah, no, if it doesn't work, if I don't use it, you can toss it, you can keep it, you can sell it, whatever. So I kind of like showed up to my aunt's house a year later, right before graduation. She was like, okay, this is it. And it was just like two boxes and like a back full of stuff. And I was like, okay, I definitely owned more than this.
Like, this looks a little lighter, but
But of
okay.
course, I mean,
Yes, well,
pretty much all my kitchen stuff was gone because my cousin used
yeah,
it and just a few things like that. So it ended up working out, and I still had to get rid of a bunch of my stuff.
cool.
But yeah, I loved being back in Cambridge.
That's awesome. I guess like was it easy to find like Caribbean people to be around while you were up there? Cuz like at least for me in America, like I don't know, people that are Caribbean, it's like awkward because they're not like really, they don't really understand, like they're not like they have their ties, but it's not like lived experience, so a lot of like their perceptions of like the region are often skewed. And I'm curious what it's like in the UK where like there is a bit more of like a Caribbean presence, but I'm curious if they still sort of have that out of touch view
Yes.
of the region.
Yes. Very much so. There were a few times a girl I lived with in first year loved that I was from the Caribbean. Whenever she had her friends over, she'd be like, guess where she's from. Just guess. Just guess where she's from.
Just
And they're like,
guess.
okay,
Guess. You're gonna
America,
get it wrong
Canada.
though.
Exactly. I was just standing there. I was like, you're not going to guess it. And I'm like, oh, no, no, I'm going to get it. I'm
They're
going
just
to
gonna
get it.
say any white country. They're
Yeah,
like any white country. She white. She must fall into one of these buckets here, right?
exactly.
Right.
And then
Like a
I
trick
tell them,
question.
they're like, oh, I don't believe you. I'm like,
Then why
I was like,
ask?
okay.
You know,
And there were quite a few people where they were like, no, you're not. And yes, yes, I am. I was like, that's where I was born. That's where I was raised. I have a Dutch passport. Like, I have a Dutch passport not because my family's Dutch. I have a
like I
Dutch
got the
passport because I'm
documents.
from St. Martin. And
My navel string is right outside that air, that clinic too. It's like, you want me to dig it up? Like, I don't understand. What proof do you
yeah,
need?
and so I got a lot of people being like, "No, you're not from the Caribbean. I am." And I'd be like, "Okay, that's great. Like, where are you from? What island?" Like, I was like, "Oh, cool. Time to bond. Let's
Community.
go." And they're like,
Exactly, my people.
"Oh, well, my grandma is from, um, I can't really remember the name of it, but it starts with Saint." And I was just like,
Crickets.
it's like, okay. And I start like listing off British islands, islands that start with Saint, things like this. And they're like, oh, that one kind of
Like
sounds
which
familiar.
which which region? Are we talking about American Virgin Islands? Are we talking about the British? Are we talking about like
Exactly.
the Leeward Islands? Like we have a lot of saints. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Gotta be
Yeah.
specific.
So I got that a lot. So I definitely got a bit confused. I got people telling me, I can't be from the Caribbean because I'm white. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, great
Shows
opinion.
what you know about diversity, but interesting.
Exactly. I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Can I go now? I'm not really feeling this conversation anymore. I was like, I don't really want to be around people that are like, hey, no, you're not from the Caribbean. I was like, okay, then where am I from? If I'm not from the
I'm telling
Caribbean,
you, they want
where am I
you
from?
to be from a white
Yeah, they all
country
said I was
where,
American. They're like, no, no,
you
no, you're
know,
American. It's like, no, I'm not.
I
They're
think
like,
it's
oh, but
because,
your parents are.
CIA.
It's like, no, they're not.
CIA raised you to not. I feel it. Private school take away our accents, Alice. So from the get go, we sound
Yeah.
American, and I can only blame LU Montessori and CIA for that.
Yep. No, that's true. That
Our
is
parents
true.
pay good money, good money for us to talk very American. So technically, we're doing, we're the profit of their investments. So
Yeah.
technically they got what they paid for. Like I can't even be mad. I can't even be mad.
Yeah, no, yeah, I can't even say anything else about that because that's true. And my parents always like, I would say something like, no, 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 proper grammar. Let's go. They're like, grammar. They're like, we don't care about your
Like we
accent,
paid
just
for you to
grammar.
speak properly. Yeah. I'm curious, like how did your parents ever worry about the fact that people would not view you as Caribbean because of their ties to South Africa, or was that ever something they were concerned about, or was always just like, well, we're here, we're part of this community, we really care about this community, and obviously you're one of, you're part of this, and so it was never really something to question.
They never really worried about it, no, because I mean, they're very sure of themselves as people. They're both the kind of person where they're like, well, this is it. If someone doesn't agree with it, that's their problem, not mine. And I'm very much not like that. I'm learning to be, but especially growing up, I cared too much about what people thought. I am a people pleaser, all of these things which my parents are not. Well, my mom is a bit in certain aspects, but overall she's very sure of herself, that whole thing. And so I'd be like, I've gone to my parents before and I'm like, no, no, no. Like, they're making fun of me because my lips are too small because I'm white, or my ass isn't big enough because I'm white, or like, oh, this person says I'm not from here. Where am I from? Like, I was like, so then I'd ask them, where am I from? And they're like, well, there's one answer. My parents are like, okay, well, we're from South Africa, but you're from here. So it was really difficult for me personally, but for them, they never really worried about it. They were like, just don't pay any mind. Just, where you're from. You have your ties to South Africa, you have your ties to St. Maarten. Obviously, the ones to St. Maarten are a million times stronger. And they were like, this is where you're from, this is where you are. Like, don't listen to them, don't worry about them. And I was like, no, 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 but this is what they're saying.
Like, and
Yeah,
it hurts. They're mean, they're mean.
exactly. But my parents were always just like, no, like, just don't worry about them. Let them say what they want to say. If someone's talking shit, that's just because they're feeling shit. Like, don't listen to them. And I was just like,
Facts.
but this is what they're
Spitting
saying.
wisdom. I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
I guess, like, how did your parents even come to St. Martin? Or, like, what was their journey from South Africa that, like, pulled them out of all the places in the world to go? This little rock in the Caribbean Sea.
Well, my parents both got to St. Martin separately and actually met on the island. So my dad
Aw, falling in love, falling in love.
my dad left South Africa when he must have been like 1920. And when he left South Africa, the apartheid was still going on. And he had not the easiest childhood. A lot of bad things had happened in his childhood with his family, all of this stuff. And so he got the chance to go to university because my dad is annoyingly smart. So, like literally the most annoyingly smart you can be. So he was able to go to university, and the law in South Africa was, I think it was just for men, but I'm not 100% sure, was either you went to university after high school or you were drafted. So my dad went to university. But after a year or two, basically there were some money issues with his father. My dad wasn't going to ask for money, so my dad dropped out. So then the country was like, okay, you're not in university anymore. You haven't finished university. You have to go to war. Or go and be drafted. And my dad was just like, no, my dad
He's like, "Love, not
well,
war," you know?
my dad just kind of he wouldn't he's a huge pacifist over so many things. He will barely kill a bug. If there's a cockroach in my room, he will catch it and release it outside.
Release.
He won't even
Exactly. Catch and
I was like, no, I got
release.
my cockroach spray next to my bed. I was like, if there's a cockroach, I'm killing it or you're catching it.
It's like, "Die.
Exactly.
Die."
And so my dad he would not pick up a gun and shoot and point it at someone else because of their skin color. Would not do it.
We
Absolutely.
love that. Oh my gosh,
I
that's
mean, it's
amazing.
just, he wouldn't do it to anyone, obviously, no matter what. But he was
Yeah.
just like, because of this, like, I know this is what my country's
He
telling
has
me
a
to do.
backbone, you know? He knows what he believes in, and that is so incredible, especially when your country, yeah, is telling you to go kill these people, and you're like, "No, bro, I will
Yeah.
not."
Well, the thing is that you either did what your country told you to do, or you're breaking the law. So my dad left South Africa on a boat, not exactly the most legal way, and did not return for a good 20, 30 years. But yeah, so he left.
Like, "Refugee, we outie." He like, "You gonna have to catch me
Yeah.
if you
I
want
mean, he
me."
still had his South African passport, was still traveling the world on his passport. He just never checked back into South Africa for a good few years. And by the time he did, apartheid was, you know, legally, like,
Things had
all
settled.
done law wise. Um, and so that he was a little bit nervous the first time he went back, but the laws had changed, so everything was okay, thankfully.
That's good.
Because
Yeah.
that was before I was born, so if it wasn't okay,
Okay,
wouldn't have
okay.
been born. But
Time check. I feel you.
but but yeah, so he left, sailed around the world. He went to the Caribbean, left the Caribbean. Like, he fully sailed around the world, traveled almost everywhere. Has all these stories about sailing and just the most random stories that I'm still learning. Like, he still will randomly tell me something so nonchalantly, and I'm like, you literally are telling me a story about how you saved a person's life. Like, I went to New York 2 years ago with a friend, and all of a sudden he was just like, oh yeah, the first time I went to New York, we were sailing out of New York, and we were with Peter, which is a friend of his. And he at the time was a big time movie producer, and I was like, hold on, Peter had that much money? Like, I didn't know he was a big deal. I just knew.
You like, "Peter had
I
money?"
was just like,
That's
I just knew the
hilarious.
man had a sailboat and was sailing around the world with his wife and daughter. I was like, I didn't know he
Like,
had this
"Peter
big
rich,
job.
rich." I'm kidding. I feel you,
And
I
my
feel
dad
you.
was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So he hired me to sail him back. Like, he was a sailor too, but you usually need, a second pair of hands at least. And he also, this big time movie producer, had some models with him on the boat, all of these things. So my dad was basically the deckhand. And he said they left New York, were a few hours out. Big storm happened. Boat started sinking because someone put, like, the bilge pump in the wrong way. So it wasn't pumping water out the boat like it should have been. And apparently, my dad said he only found out years later, when he saw Peter again, that Peter was so close to calling Mayday on the radio. And my dad just went into the sinking boat, turned, like, put the bilge pump in properly, and fixed it, and just kept on sailing.
Like a G. That's what we talk about,
I'm like,
control over the mind. He was calm, he was collected, he knew what he had to do, and he executed. Hell
exactly.
yeah.
And I'm just over here, I was like, hold on. This whole story just came out because I'm going to New York for 4 days. And all of a sudden, you're telling me, A, this person I know was a movie producer for MTV. B, that, like, you
Liddy.
saved his life and a bunch of random girls' lives. C, that he was just like, yeah. And he was just telling me this
Just
while we were walking the
casually. Just
dog.
casually. Casual.
Exactly. So I'm
Casual,
still
you know?
learning his stories. Um
That's awesome.
and then my mom left with her family when she was like 15, 16, and they only sailed for like 4, 6 months, I think. My grandfather built a boat, and they had sailed a little bit around Cape Town and where they were, and then they decided to sail around the world, so gave my mom and her sisters the option to join them or stay behind with another family member. but they decided to join. So it was my mom and her older sister, so 2 teenagers, and then I think my youngest aunt was like 2 or 3 at the time on the boat. Tiny ass little boat. Like, I've seen it. Teensy tiny little boat. Just so the 5 of them sailed just basically from South Africa to the Caribbean, and they were planning on continuing to sail, but they just, they liked it, so they all decided to stay.
Like, it's pretty here. I like the vibe. These
Yeah,
people cool. We,
yeah,
we should settle down, you know?
exactly. And then my mom became friends with my dad's girlfriend, and then now my parents are together.
She stole him real quick. She was like, "Oh, I see something I like, and I'ma get it."
I never quite have. I
No, your
still
parents
haven't
are
quite heard the
awesome,
whole
though.
story on how they got together. I just know
I
that
feel
she was
you.
friends with his girlfriend. Then
Some
they broke
tea.
up,
I feel
according to
you. I
him.
feel you.
Nothing to do with my
They
mom.
broke
Yeah,
up.
nothing to do with
Okay,
my mom.
keeping it clean. Keeping
But
it clean.
and then a few months after they broke up, my mom and dad started dating and moved in together. As soon as my
And
mom
then next
turned
thing you
18,
know,
yeah. Well, not the next thing. 7 years later, they buy a house, have a kid.
time passed and the family emerged, you know. No, you're honestly, your parents are so awesome. Even just like, I reflect on like some of my like fondest childhood memories of just like being on the boat with you guys and going to Tintamar. And like, I remember when your dad would like pull us in like the dinghy in the kayak in the back, and like we would have so much fun doing all of these random adventures. And honestly, like your grandma and like the huge like garden and like animals that she has, like I am so inspired honestly to live like that when I, can afford such things. But it's just like so inspiring to see people that are just fearless and so authentically them and full of love and just like are so open to like having all of these people just come into their lives and sharing really like their love for life and their love for nature in such a small community where like though that type of investing into like the local community, it really is felt. And like I have no doubt that your parents have touched so many lives that they probably not even aware of because they're just being awesomely them. But yeah, like I'm just so grateful to have met you guys because just like even the times that I've spent, like they were incredible memories that I'm always going to cherish. And it definitely cultivated my love for the environment and for nature because they really showed me like how much fun and how much beautiful and like why it should be protected. And those are things that you can't really put a price on. Like it's priceless.
Yeah, that was so sweet. That was very sweet.
Aw, I mean, it's the truth, like, they're so freaking awesome. And, yeah, like, I'm glad that things are back to, I know, like, you guys are doing so much with, like, the shark conservation and, like, keeping our sharks healthy and making the awareness about even sharks in our community because sharks get a bad rap,
Yeah, they
they're
do.
scary, but we need them.
We do. They are
And even,
so
like, the work you've
important.
done with the monkeys, like, it's just such great stuff. But I'm curious, like, could you speak a little bit about the work that you did do with the monkeys on the island and
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, for sure.
what was that?
It
Yeah.
was very difficult to do because obviously there were a lot of people against the work that we were doing. It was very
Interesting.
basically the backstory is the vervet monkeys on St. Maarten are invasive, and they are a highly, highly adaptable species. They can adapt to almost anything. They are only native to Southwest Africa, I believe. Um, so they've are all over the world now. Like they're in South America, the U.S., the Caribbean, all over the world, and they've adapted and they're invasive everywhere.
Do you know how they got all over the world?
Uh,
Like,
the
is it
pet
just people
trade,
bringing them?
mostly the pet
Mm.
trade, onto St. Maarten. It's believed, of course, there's no actual data for
Way
this.
to really know. Yeah, yeah.
But on St. Maarten, it's believed that they were first brought to St. Kitts from England in the pet trade, and then from St. Kitts to St. Maarten in the pet trade that is now illegal. And so that's how it's believed. There are rumors and people saying that they have they've escaped from the zoo and hurricanes, this and that. Once again, there's nothing, no confirmed
To
data.
prove that. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, there is a article online from someone from the old zoo on St. Maarten saying that yes, they did have some monkeys released, but they did recapture them all, which I don't know how likely that is, but that is what they stated. And then we have also heard from other people that worked at the zoo that no monkeys have ever been released or escaped from a hurricane. So the data unfortunately isn't there. And the first
Inconclusive.
exactly
I feel you.
the first recorded sighting of any monkey on the island was in 1970. But when you talk with, your grandmas and people who were on the island before then, they were like, oh, no, like my neighbor had a monkey for a pet. They weren't wild, they weren't how they are now, but they were there. So they're just very adaptable. The species has continued to grow. The vervet species, in the best conditions, they can double their population within a year, at least. So, yeah, another big thing
They
is
definitely having fun. I can say that.
another big thing is obviously our seasons are different to Africa. So we don't have as clear of a rainy and a dry season like Africa does. So we don't have necessarily a breeding season for the monkeys. So we get babies almost all year round because the whole idea is they will breed and have babies when food is abundant. So in the rainy season. But because our dry season, when it's like properly dry is so short, we don't have that clear cut here and there. So that's why our
So they
population
just
can,
they just I feel
yeah.
it. They just going at it all the
So
time.
they're incredibly invasive and they are very dangerous to our native species. A lot of plant species are dying because of this. Bird species can diminish. There have been reports of fewer birds around houses. People have just been like, oh yeah, no, we're seeing less birds, but more monkeys. The monkeys do eat birds and bird eggs. So it's obviously there isn't any clear study on it. So I can't say, yeah, because of the monkeys, this is going to happen to this species, etc., etc. But based on research on other invasive animals, basically they have no predator. They're going to continue to populate. They're not going to hit a plateau, most likely. They're probably just going to continue going. And that can be very dangerous to our ecosystem on the island because we already don't have a very strong and stable ecosystem because of the tourism and the continuous construction, all of these things. So the project, basically what I did was I just did the research on approximately how many, what the population sizes were on the Dutch side of the island. So the total report is not for the entire island, it is just for the Dutch side, which, as we know, monkeys don't know borders. So, they be going back and forth. They don't give any craps about what
They
side of
like
the island
what?
they're on.
What's the north and the south?
Exactly.
It's
They're
the
like, I'm
same
Dutch, now I'm
mountain
French, now I'm
hills.
Dutch,
Yeah.
now I'm French. So it's a very rough estimation, but it is based on their troop sizes, where they were found, their behavior, like when they were out and about, things like that. And so basically it was to kind of research their behavior, how many there were, how their behavior was different to how it's supposed to be. And then to look into and get the project changed over time. But by the end of it, we asked the local community about what they thought should happen. And one thing that we did was we did like a survey where we asked people what they thought, etc. One thing that we were very mindful of is we never put this survey online, and we never specified where we were going to be when we were going to be conducting the survey, purely because we knew that there are a lot of activists, and I can 100% understand their point of view, they're not in the wrong in any way. I 100% understand it's not fair on the monkeys themselves, that we're trying to look for ways to eradicate them, lower their numbers, etc. They did nothing wrong. They're just, they're just living their best life on the
I feel
island where they
you.
were born and raised, kind of the same as us. Um, and so we made sure that the surveys were random. I went and did them myself. So I stood in front of Koiman, in front of Grand Marche, in front of Sangs. Like, I went to all, like, the hot spots where people are gonna be.
I feel you.
I
I feel
went
you. When
exactly,
the
yeah.
community gathers,
Exactly.
yeah.
Everyone needs to buy food. I made sure to go to different communities, Grand Marché, Market Garden. We did stop by a few people. Like, when we were doing our surveys, if someone asked us, what are you doing? I always had, because we had tablets that we were doing the surveys with. So I always had one with me so I could ask them. So, it's someone who just saw us walking by their house and they're like, hey, what are you doing? So I'm like, while we're talking, do you mind filling out the survey? And I can't remember how many results we got, but it was not too many, not too few, like a couple hundred, I believe. And
A
basically,
solid amount.
yeah, it's not a perfect consensus of the whole
Sample
island, of
size. I
course,
feel you.
but I
Yeah,
also
yeah.
only had a week to get this done with the survey wise. So we did what we could. It's never going to be the 100% answer. That's the whole thing with survey. Not everyone's going to agree with the answer. But the outcome of the survey, the majority did vote for eradication, which was euthanizing the monkeys. And the reason is because there were three options that are possible, basically. And that would be do nothing. They would continue to overpopulate, and this could be a future problem. It could get worse in the future. We cannot tell you. We can't say this is what it's going to be like. The next option
Mm.
was forced sterilization, which a lot of people initially wanted to do sterilization. They initially were like, well, that's, makes the most sense, which in a way it does, in a way it doesn't. It was at least 10 times more expensive, if not more. B, it is quite invasive for the monkeys because you have to catch them, take them to the vet, sterilize them, and release them again. And we were looking
Mm.
at only doing one gender, one sex of the monkeys, and seeing how that would work. And we were initially thinking, okay, the females, they're the ones getting pregnant. It's basically one male. The way that the troop works is that there's the one alpha male who's at the top, and he impregnates multiple females. So we were first looking
You like, I'm
to
picking the next generation.
yeah, so we were first looking to sterilize the males, but the problem is you cannot capture the alpha straight away, because then that makes the troop go into frenzy, and the troop starts going crazy. They go all over the
Oh.
place.
They're
So
like,
so
where's
yeah,
our
so
leader?
exactly,
Where he
that's
at?
literally it.
And then the young ones want to see who's going to be the new leader. And then there's
Yeah.
tension in the squad. And the women are like, ah! I feel
Yeah.
it.
So the sterilization would have been a much longer project, and we would only start seeing
Mm.
a decline in the population like at least 10 years later, but up to 20 to 30 years later. And you would have to continuously do it because these monkeys can live for up to 30 years roughly. On average between 10 and 20, but they can live older. So that's the thing, is the sterilization would have been much more expensive and long-winded. If we were able to get this money and get a proper team
Mm.
going, then yes, it would be a better solution. But we don't have.
Could we hunt them?
So yes and no. That is also up to different people. The what we were looking for eradication would be to dart them, so not to initially shoot
Oh.
them, but dart them and then take them to the vet to get put down, to get euthanized. And the main reason for that is to shoot them with a gun. If you miss, you end up hurting them. Like if you just hit them in the arm or if you hit them along
We
the
don't have good
neck.
hunting practices. I feel you. I
Exactly.
feel
Yeah.
you.
Even the best hunters can make a mistake sometimes. It is incredibly
Yes,
difficult
I
to
feel
hunt
you.
monkeys. So it was the most humane
Yeah, I can
option
imagine.
for the way that we looked
Mm.
at it, for like if to go with the eradication process, if that was the way to work to continue to go forward, this would be the most humane way to do this eradication process. Because of
Interesting.
course the end goal is be humane and let nature, the native plants and animals, to continue to succeed, not let them get overrun with an invasive species.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, invasive species have been a pain
Yeah.
all over the place, doing all kind of trouble because humans just irritating, just don't know. They want too much, then don't want to take care of it. Just let it go and then screw up the ecosystem and then it ruins it for the animals that are actually there and they can't compete. They have no way to protect themselves because they didn't evolve to have to deal with these predators or deal with these people that are maybe better at, getting the nutrients that they need to
Hmm.
survive. Like,
Yeah,
that's so interesting.
so it was definitely a difficult project to do because I'm the same. I don't want to hurt these animals that haven't done anything. If we
Yeah.
could catch them, send them off somewhere else to another country, like send them back to Africa, that would be great. They're supposed to be there, but nobody wants them because they are invasive everywhere
They're
except
like, we should send
Africa.
them home, but they don't want to go home. They don't want to go
Exactly. But
home.
it's also like,
They're like, I like this.
they're St.
I feel
Martiners,
you.
they grew up here.
They are. They
So
are.
it's a very gray area
Tough. I
subject.
feel it. I feel it.
But sometimes you do have to think about the native species, and we got a lot of
Yeah.
bad reactions, especially through social media from other people, which once again I completely understand, but some of the ways they brought it up was a bit like, could have worded it
You
better at
know, you know,
least.
the-
Don't have to be mean.
People just like to get a reaction. I
Well,
think that's what it is, you
one
know?
person commented at one point, like, do you just want like everyone to leave the island and let nature just be perfect? Like, are you gonna kick all the people off the island next? I'm like, can we do that? Yeah.
I mean, that
If
would be great.
if we
It would
can just
definitely
kick,
help.
yeah, just let nature do itself. Stop construction,
It'd be
kick everyone off
fantastic.
the island, make it a nature park. I'll do that.
Fantastic.
I was like, that's
It'd
not
be
even a mean
beautiful.
comment. That's a good idea, sir.
You're giving us great feedback because we're liking this. We're liking this. Maybe we just temporarily go to Tintamar, camp out and just come back. But let's be real. We shouldn't do that.
No.
Let's not do that. Because it'll ruin that too. But I'm curious, like, what's next in the adventure? Like, where are you headed off next? Or are you just gonna stay, in Indonesia for the next schminute?
So we are no. So we go to Nusa Penida, which is just another part of Indonesia, for a couple days, and then November 1st we fly to Vietnam, where we spend 3 weeks traveling up Vietnam, south to
Ooh,
north. So very excited for that. And then after Vietnam, one friend leaves because she has to go back. She's going home for Christmas and then starts work. And then two of us are here on a one
the
way
grind.
ticket. Yeah, yeah. So two of us are here on a one-way ticket. And
Letty.
so my friend wants to move to Bali and work there. And I don't know what I'm going to do after that. I'm still looking into it. I'm looking into going to Australia or New Zealand and applying for some jobs
Ooh.
there. But I have to make up my mind where I want to go next, what I want to do,
I
things
feel
like
it.
that.
Leave the doors open, Alice, and let all the infinite possibilities come your way. Maybe you go to Vietnam, you meet some people, they're like, "Oh my god, we have this cool ass conservation place. Alice, come through." And you're like, "You know what? Yes." You never know. And the future has so many just options. And I'm curious to just see what you end up doing because I already know it's going to be great for the planet. And just, yeah, just to see like what your family has been fighting for, like I absolutely love it. And yeah, I'm curious to, yeah, just see what you'd end up doing and how you help make this place a little bit better by just, making people realize that nature is our friend, and she's here and we need to love her and love us.
I know,
So
yeah. It's very sad seeing people that don't see nature as it is. Like they're just kind of like, oh, it's just earth, like whatever. I'm just going to
dirt
keep
and
living my
trees.
life. Exactly. And then you really
Like
think
we
about
are
it. Yeah.
nature.
Exactly. No, like it's all around us, everything. One person pointed out to me because we were talking about it, and he started going on about how nothing is 100% man-made, which when you think about it, he was just like, all materials have come from nature, which I'm still like, okay, yeah, no, buildings, trees, these are man made. But he does have the point where you're like, yes, they may have created this new metal, but the pieces that went into this metal aren't man made. It's like these
It's the
things.
processing. The
Yeah,
processing is
exactly.
not natural.
No, not at all. So as I was
It's
saying,
like
like
I feel him. I feel him.
I
Yeah.
completely like, I'm like, no, 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 like, no, this is still man made. This is still like, nature. But I never really thought of it that way, how everything man made still comes from nature. It still comes
Yeah.
from the earth. Like, we haven't, you know, we can only do so much what nature allows us to do, pretty much.
I feel you. It's an interesting thing. I think it's just the issue of like our the way we make things is not like we don't think of it like nature handles its own waste.
Yeah.
Nature knows how to handle, decomposing bodies and dead trees and dead leaves. Like it has fungi that takes care of that. You have all
Hmm.
of these different players in our food chain that deal with it. But I think with the man-made issue is like our stuff, we don't have that intention of thinking about what happens to it when we're done with it. Like we're not thinking about all the byproducts that come out of it. We're not thinking about all the energy that we have to create to make these things that all come at a cost. And it's the balance. Like nature knows how to balance itself. And as humans, we've sort of just taken that for granted.
Oh, for
And
sure.
I agree. Like they said, we can only do what nature allows us. But yeah, that very much means that if we keep pushing nature and we keep poking at her and we push her over her edge, she's gonna handle it and she's gonna rebalance all right. And you know what that means? Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires, floods. Like nature will handle it, but I can assure you humans will not like the way she handles things
Oh,
when
not at
she
all.
gets pissed off. You know what I mean? So we gotta be careful. We gotta be careful.